Lyria's fingers traced the ceremonial binding cloth as her mother's voice echoed through the vaulted chamber of their ancestral home on Zathros Prime. You will marry the human diplomat, Tobias Chun. This alliance is not negotiable. The words fell like stones into dark water. Lyria had never seen a face in her 23 years, not her mother's stern expression, not the trident stars that hung above their world, not even her own reflection. She navigated by the soft clicks of her tongue against her teeth, reading the echoes that bounced back from walls and bodies, and by the subtle temperature shifts that told her when someone approached. Her luminous orange skin, a mark of Zythrian nobility, felt cold in the morning air. She touched her blonde hair, styled in the traditional marriage braids she couldn't see, and felt a familiar bitterness rise in her throat. This marriage was political necessity. The human federation and the Zythrian collective needed unity against the expansionist Krell Empire. But Lyria was tired of being a symbol, a chess piece moved across boards she couldn't perceive. The wedding ceremony aboard the diplomatic station, Harmony's Edge, was everything she'd feared: cold, formal, voices speaking words that meant nothing to her heart. She felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, human and Zythrian alike, assessing, judging. When Tobias took her hand to complete the binding ritual, she expected the perfunctory touch of someone performing a duty. Instead, his fingers were warm, his grip gentle but steady. "The band I'm placing on your finger," he said softly, his voice like deep water, "has an engraving. May I guide your fingers to feel it?" She nodded, surprised, and he traced her fingertip along the metal surface. She felt the grooves, the deliberate pattern. "It says, 'Bridge between stars' in both our languages," he continued. "I chose it myself. I know you didn't choose this, Lyria, but I hope ... I hope we can build something real together." His thumb brushed across her knuckles, a gesture so tender it caught her breath. For the first time since her mother's announcement, something other than resentment stirred in her chest, something fragile and uncertain, like the first tremor before a quake. Perhaps this human would surprise her. Perhaps this prison of an arranged marriage had a door she hadn't yet found. The first week in their shared quarters, Tobias established a pattern that bewildered Lyria. Each morning, he would announce himself before entering a room, "Coming in on your left," or "Approaching from behind." "It's just me." No one had ever done that before. Most people simply appeared in her world of echoes and temperature changes, startling her constantly. He described everything unprompted. The viewport showing distant stars that looked like diamonds scattered on black velvet, the texture of the Zythrian silk curtains as water made solid, and most surprising of all, her own appearance. "Your skin," he said one evening as they sat together, "is the color of a sunset over Earth's Pacific Ocean orange that seems to hold light inside it. And your hair," she felt his fingers barely brush a blonde strand, "it's like spun gold, catching every bit of light in the room. You're beautiful, Lyria. I want you to know what you look like, even if you've never seen yourself." She began to distinguish him from everyone else, not by sight but by sound and presence. His footsteps were lighter than most humans, more deliberate, as if he was always conscious of not startling her. When he discovered she loved music, he brought her an instrument from Earth, a kalimba, he called it, a wooden box with metal tines that sang when plucked. She spent hours learning its voice, and he would sit nearby, reading reports, just being present. One night, as she played, he spoke of his sister, Adriana, who had died in a Krell raid on a civilian transport. "She believed in peace," Tobias said, his voice thick with old grief. "She would have loved you, your strength, your resilience. When they offered me this diplomatic marriage, I accepted partly for her memory. She would have wanted bridges, not walls." Lyria stopped playing, her head turning toward his voice. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said. "I understand now why you describe things to me. You're trying to build bridges in every small moment, aren't you?" She heard him shift closer. "Lyria, can I—" He paused. "May I read you something?" She nodded, and he began reciting ancient earth poetry, Neruda, Rumi, verses about love and connection. His voice washed over her like warm rain, and without thinking, she let her head rest against his shoulder. She felt his heartbeat, steady and strong, and memorized its rhythm. His scent sandalwood and something uniquely him, like sun-warmed stone, wrapped around her. When he finished reading, she realized she was smiling, genuinely smiling for the first time in months. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me when I cannot see you." His arm came around her shoulders, careful, asking permission with every movement. "I see you, Lyria," he murmured against her hair. "I see you completely." And in the darkness that was her permanent world, she felt something brilliant begin to grow. 3 months into their marriage, Lyria had become an unexpected fixture at diplomatic meetings. Tobias insisted on her presence, quietly describing each attendee's body language and positioning. "Ambassador Krell is leaning forward, aggressive," he would whisper. The Andromedan delegate just crossed her arms defensive. But Lyria brought her own expertise. Her acute hearing caught the micro-tremors and voices that betrayed lies, the hesitations that revealed doubt. During a crucial negotiation, she leaned toward Tobias and murmured, "The Centauri representative is lying about his government's military positions." His breathing pattern changed. Tobias relayed her insight, and the negotiation shifted dramatically. Afterward, another human diplomat confronted Tobias in the corridor. Lyria heard every word from around the corner. "Why do you coddle her? She's a political arrangement, not a real asset." Tobias's voice went cold as starlight. "My wife has more insight in her smallest finger than you've demonstrated in your entire career. Speak of her that way again, and I'll have you removed from this delegation." Lyria's heart swelled at the steel in his defense. That night, a station-wide power failure plunged Harmony's Edge into absolute darkness. Lyria heard Tobias stumble, curse softly. "Tobias?" she called. "I'm here. I'm all right. Just I can't see anything." For the first time, she laughed freely. "Follow my voice. I'll guide you." She navigated their quarters perfectly, clicking her tongue and reading the echoes, taking his hand and leading him around furniture, through doorways to their sleeping area. When they sat on the bed together, still in complete darkness, he said quietly, "This is your world." "Every day." She found his hand in the dark. "Yes, but you've made it less lonely." She felt him shift closer, heard the change in his breathing. "Lyria," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I need you to know something. This started as duty, as politics, as honoring my sister's memory. But you've become everything to me. I love you. I'm in love with you." Her breath caught. She reached out, finding his face with her fingers, tracing the features she'd memorized, the strong jaw, the straight nose, the curve of his lips. "I've memorized you," she whispered. "The callus on your right index finger from your data stylus. The way you hum when you're reading something complex. The fact that you're left-handed but drink your coffee with your right hand. I know every part of you except—" She hesitated. "Except what you look like. I know the shape of your face, but not the colors, not the way light plays across your features. I long to see you, Tobias. I long to know if your eyes are as kind as your voice." He cupped her face gently. "Would it change anything if you could?" She leaned into his touch, then pulled him closer, finding his lips with hers. The kiss was tentative at first, then deeper, both of them breathing each other in. "No," she whispered against his mouth. "But I still wish I could." The next morning, a message arrived from Dr. Kalen Voss, Zythros Prime's most renowned neurosurgeon. A new optical nerve regeneration procedure. 60% success rate for full vision. Lyria held the datapad she couldn't read and felt Tobias's hand shake slightly as he held hers. The future had suddenly opened like a door she'd never known existed. Dr. Voss's message consumed Lyria's thoughts for days. She sat in their quarters, touching objects she'd only known through feel, the smooth surface of a data screen, the rough weave of Zythrian ceremonial cloth, the cool metal of her kalimba. But what would they look like? What would anything look like? She'd built an entire understanding of the universe through sound, touch, temperature, and scent. Sight seemed alien, overwhelming, impossible to imagine. "You don't have to do this," Tobias said one evening, sitting beside her. "You're complete as you are, Lyria. You're brilliant and perceptive, and you've never let your blindness define your capabilities. I love you exactly as you are right now." She turned her face toward his voice, reaching out to touch his cheek. "I know," she said softly. "But Tobias, I want to see you. Not the stars, not the diplomatic chambers, not even my own reflection. You. I want the first light that ever enters my eyes to be your face looking back at me. I want to see the man I've fallen in love with." "Is that foolish?" His hand covered hers, pressing her palm against his face. "It's not foolish. But Lyria, what if—" He stopped, and she heard the fear in his silence. "What if you're disappointed? What if the reality doesn't match what you've imagined?" She smiled, understanding his vulnerability. "Do you think you're not handsome?" She felt him shrug. "I'm ordinary. Brown eyes, black hair that's going gray at the temples, though I'm only 36. I have a scar on my chin from falling off a bicycle when I was 8. I'm not extraordinary to look at." Lyria's fingers traced the scar he'd mentioned, feeling the thin line of disrupted skin. "You're extraordinary to me," she said firmly. "But I won't lie, I'm terrified too. What if my brain can't process visual input after a lifetime of blindness? What if the surgery fails and I lose what little light perception I have?" Dr. Voss said there's a 10% chance of complete failure. Her mother contacted her that week, urging her to accept a procedure. Imagine the symbolism: Lyria, a blind Zythrian princess gaining sight through human medical cooperation. It would strengthen the alliance immeasurably. Lyria had never felt such anger. "This isn't about politics, Mother. If I do this, it's for love, not for your treaties." She ended the call, her hands shaking. Tobias pulled her into his arms. "Whatever you choose, I'm with you. If you want to try, I'll be there for every moment. If you don't, we'll continue building our life exactly as we have been." She buried her face against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, her favorite sound in any world. "I want to try," she whispered, "but on my terms. I want you there when the bandages come off. No press, no diplomats, no cameras. Just us." The nights before the surgery, Tobias barely left her side. They lay together in the darkness that was her constant companion, and she traced every part of him one last time, memorizing him through touch as if her fingers were taking photographs. "Promise me," she said the night before the operation. "Promise me you'll be the first thing I see when I wake up. That your face will be my introduction to light." He kissed her forehead, her eyelids, her lips. "I promise. I'll describe myself one more time so you know what to expect." He did the brown eyes, the graying temples, the scar, the face of an ordinary man who loved her extraordinarily. She cupped his face in her hands. "I already know you're beautiful, Tobias. I've seen you in every way that matters. But I want to see you with these eyes too." When morning came and the medical transport arrived, she reached for his hand, and he never let go. The surgery took 6 hours. Tobias paced the medical wing corridor of Harmony's Edge until his legs ached, ignoring the messages from diplomats and press requesting updates. Dr. Voss finally emerged. her expression carefully neutral. The procedure was successful, she said, and Tobias felt his knees nearly buckle. But you must understand, her brain has never processed visual input. The optical nerves are regenerated and functional, but she needs time for neural pathways to establish. She awake with bandages. They must remain for 3 days while the connections strengthen. Tobias nodded, already moving past her toward the recovery room. Lyria lay on the medical bed, bandages covering her eyes, her orange skin pale against the white sheets. When he took her hand, she stirred. "Tobias?" Her voice was weak, frightened. "I'm here. I'm right here." She gripped his hand desperately. "I can't. Everything feels strange." "Did it work?" We won't know for 3 days," he said gently. "Your eyes need to heal." But Dr. Voss said the surgery went perfectly. Those 3 days were the longest of Lyria's life. The bandages pressed against her new eyes, and she felt phantom sensations, flickers of something that might be light or might be her imagination. Tobias read to her, played her kalimba, described the stars outside their viewport. What if it didn't work? She asked on the second night, fear sharp in her voice. What if I go through all this and still see nothing? What if I never see you? He pulled her close, careful of the bandages. Then we continue as we have been, he said firmly. Lyria, you already see me better than anyone ever has. You see my heart, my intentions, my love for you. If your eyes never work, it doesn't change us. It doesn't change what we have. She clung to him, drawing strength from his certainty. On the third morning, Dr. Voss arrived with a delegation of medical staff, diplomats, and press representatives. Tobias blocked the door. No, absolutely not. This is a private moment. Arguments erupted, but he was immovable. Everyone leaves, now or the bandages don't come off. Finally, they were alone, just Lyria, Tobias, and Dr. Voss, who agreed to leave immediately after removing the bandages. Lyria sat on their bed, Tobias kneeling before her, holding both her hands. Ready? Dr. Voss asked. Lyria nodded, and the doctor carefully unwound the gauze. Layer after layer fell away. Lyria's eyes had always been clouded white, but now Tobias saw color emerging, violet. Deep, stunning violet irises that had been hidden her entire life. Open slowly, Dr. Voss instructed. The light will be overwhelming. Lyria's eyelids fluttered. Actual light poured into her consciousness for the first time. Everything was blurred, shapes and colors bleeding together in incomprehensible chaos. She gasped, overwhelmed, frightened. Then she focused. On him. On Tobias. His face resolved from the blur-brown eyes that were indeed kind, exactly as she'd imagined. Crinkles at the corners from years of smiling. Gray threading through black hair at his temples. The scar on his chin she'd felt 1,000 times. A face weathered by life and bright with love and wet with tears. You're crying, she whispered, her voice full of wonder. She reached up to touch his face, and this time she could see her orange fingers against his skin, see his expression as he smiled through tears. I can see you crying. Her own tears came then, tracking down her cheeks, and she marveled at the sensation of seeing them fall. You're exactly as I imagined, she said, laughing and crying at once. No, you're more. You're everything. Tobias cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. What do you see? He asked, his voice breaking. She looked into his brown eyes, seeing emotions play across his features, joy, relief, love so profound it seemed to radiate from him. I see home, she said. I see love. I see the man who taught a blind girl how to truly see long before her eyes ever could. She pulled him close, kissing him while watching his face, learning this new dimension of the man she loved. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, I want to see everything with you. The trident stars, the colors you've described, all of it. But most of all, I want to see your face every morning for the rest of our lives." Later, they stood at the viewport, Lyria's eyes wide as she took in the stars, for the first time brilliant points of light scattered across infinite darkness. But she kept turning back to look at Tobias, unable to stop herself, her new vision returning again and again to him. He noticed and smiled. "The stars will still be there," he teased gently. "You can look at them." She shook her head, taking his hand, studying the way their fingers intertwined, orange and tan, two different worlds meeting. "The stars are beautiful," she said, "but they're just light, Tobias. You're the one who gave me something to see for. You're my first sunrise, my first star, my first and most important sight." She rose on her toes to kiss him, her new violet eyes reflecting his face, and in that moment, she knew that of all the gifts sight had given her, seeing the love in his eyes was the greatest gift of all. Her blindness had ended, but her true vision, the one that recognized love not by sight but by presence, by patience, by devotion, that vision had been clear all along.